I'm so bad for that.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, good evening. Today is May 2nd, and this is our Finance Committee meeting. First item on the agenda is the monthly review of the attorney fees from Porzio for March 2023. That number is $33,066.78. Anyone have any questions? All right. Next item on the agenda is the review of the bill list. Total on this portion is $2,787,180.83. I did my sampling and backup thing earlier in the day. We'll expect an addendum to this come early middle of next week, I suppose Tuesday. It's not as much as it typically is because we're so close on the heels of the last cycle. Anyone have any questions on any of the items in the bill list?
I only have a question about, procedure from here, because since our meeting is next month, and there's gonna be a longer period of time between that and our June meeting. So are there gonna be a lot more bills for the next month that are gonna get paid before the board
Likely.
can see them? Okay.
Just anything that's in that category.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
The special categories,
Yeah.
the payroll, the garnishments and utility, stuff like that. All right. Maybe I won't need to know.
They're the standard stuff, I know. What's
Okay,
asked?
next item up is the audit update. So there we are, we have the RFP invoice. Do you want to give us a little status on that, Alan?
Yes, so we have submitted an RFP to the attorney for review, and we're hoping to be able to advertise that starting next Wednesday. So that would bring us to June 13th for the RFP opening, which is the day before the board meeting. If we are not able to get it out at that time, we have to extend it to July.
And that doesn't cause any issue with the next cycle, or?
I mean, it shouldn't, it's just a matter of an auditor being able to plan their schedule. So it's better if it's, certainly better if it's done in June.
The chances are they wouldn't quote on it if they didn't think they
Right,
were
correct.
having the capacity to
Right.
take on the district to
Yeah,
begin with.
yeah.
All right. Any questions on that? All right. And just in case I use the acronym without saying what it was, that RFP means request for proposal, that we are shopping around again for best practices financially for who the auditor should be next week, so for next year. So we'll open up a bidding for that, to harvest competition in the area. Next item is the budget update. Alan, you want to catch us up on that?
Yeah, so, after the board meeting, after we, adopted the budget, we sent it to the county. So the only thing left is we have the A4F form, which is the tax certification that's, certified by the clerk, county clerk. So that was signed today, so tomorrow we can send, that off to the county, and they should have everything they need according to, the final approval.
Okay.
Okay, and I guess, since we were talking about the budget, being that we have had some constraints that are continuing with our budget, we, I was tasked to look into, moving the date of the election from November to April. So I've, started to look into that, and that two things really. It gives the community a chance to vote on the budget, so you can get, people can actually vote on what they want. But you also have a chance to expand, being that we're limited to a 2% tax cap rate increase every year. That's becoming very difficult to fit what we need into our budget. Being that salaries are increasing, we're finding healthcare costs are increasing. Transportation, we have ongoing expenses like capital improvements that we need to do and maintenance that we need to do that we are finding very difficult to fit into our budget. Our total budget increase for this year, for the next year, is only $990,000. Our total general fund increase is, I think, $2.5 million. So it's very, that alone is barely going to cover salary increases. So, this would give us an opportunity for, it's an approach to move beyond that cap so that we can expand our programs, so we can keep our current staff and programs, keep growing.
As well as have the opportunity to get some of these capital improvements embedded into the general budget, since we've not been able to, I don't know what the appetite is for trying to go for a referendum for just some of the capital improvement type projects. But this shift away from trying to live within the constraints of the 2% and not having a positive feedback from a community referendum to do major expansions of the schools, now we do have to look at those capital improvement projects which are necessary to the running of the district that we're not able to fund out of the general budget with the 2%. We're able to go out beyond the 2%. We see other districts getting closer to 5%. And in the event the community were to vote down the budget, then our understanding is it would shift into municipality electors that would then make a decision. They would hopefully collaborate with us and land somewhere. They can lower it, they can raise it, they can keep it for exactly what we asked. And it's at least a partnership between the community and the school district and the town legislation, so the town elected officials. So I think it puts us all into trying to work through this issue together of being in a little bit of a precarious financial situation where we're just not a district that, given the state aid we get, given the growth that we've been tasked to try to keep up with, wanting to preserve services for our students and attractive wage and benefits for our staff, we really are not going to see much choice. So our next steps as a board here is to start deliberating over the concept, see where we're standing on an appetite for shifting over to that model of having an election on the budget. And then it looks like in not the May meeting, but maybe the June meeting, we would come to the full board with a resolution looking to take the steps, to just do that for next cycle.
And May, I'd like to just piggyback on what Ms. Allen said. We are very proud that we're able to preserve the direct impact to our children. Programs, transportation, quality teachers, quality staff. And it was probably one of the hardest budget cycles to work within because we have not wants and needs, but we have must-haves. We have a roof that has to be designed for Applegarth, then we have a roof that has to be repaired. We have HVAC operations. Many of these things were in, as they should have been, were in the referendum, but we also live in the real world where we understood that if the referendum didn't pass, we had other areas to go. It's not like we have when you have the extra frills, we don't really have that. So we're not in a position where we meet together and we do it constantly. Sometimes it's almost daily, that's the way it's been the last couple of weeks. Layman, myself, including Ms. Monroe, of course, Ms. Allen, and Ms. Christie, as Director of Human Resources, we really have been truly doing a very detailed audit of anything that we feel may not be a need. And we just don't want it to start affecting our children. And, in the news, it's everywhere about what's going on in the districts that surround us and what they're getting rid of buses and programs and after school and all these different things, programs within the school day. Districts that just surround us, whether it be Mercer County, Middlesex County, or Monmouth County. And it's concerning, it's very concerning. And if the answer is that we need to say to our community, here's the budget, let's make decisions, that's the answer then. And the township and us, we are, they run their things their way, we run our things our way, but we're all one community. And I mean, we would be hopeful that the parents would approve it, but if they didn't and the township had to step in, they would then have to work as a partner with us about, you know, what our needs are. I don't think there's anything that, anybody would say is just the extras. There are no extras.
No,
We
the
have-
concept
we
is
have-
not that we would put
we have
a
no
Christmas
extras.
wish list
Right.
together and say, this is
Correct.
everything you'd like,
Right.
just give it to us. By no
Yeah.
means,
Yeah.
we're still,
You know, something as simplistic as even just looking at Applegarth, and I call it simplistic, and I don't mean that Applegarth is simplistic, I mean, the concept that Applegarth needs our attention is simple. It hasn't happened, it's been years and years and years, and we need to pay attention, and in order to pay attention, we need money. So these are the things that are coming up.
And if I could, it also goes to the way our government is, right? It's a democracy. So we have a budget, we put it together as a board, we do a budget philosophy, and we present it to the community. The community should have a vote on it. You know, and this is bringing it back out to the community to say, here is what our budget philosophy was, here is our needs and what we need in this budget to, you know, have this caliber of programming and education for our students. What do you feel on it? I mean, that's bringing the community back, engaging the community that we hear so much of. Vote on it. If it fails, you do have the opportunity then to go to your municipal government, who is your partner in the town. I mean, they oversee the entire town, and bring it to the municipal government for, you know, their approval. And then there's another step, if the board isn't happy with that, you could bring it to the Department of Education, to the commissioner. So there's different levels of, you know, the democratic process in our state that we can seek, other than just, okay, you know, we have to continue to fight for our fair share of funding. That's absolutely a must. How much we're gonna get from that, we don't know, but we can't put all of our eggs in that basket and have a budget over here that we can't fund ourselves through the 2%. So we're at the stage, I think, where, like Mrs. Chandler said, before we start cutting things, I mean,
Which we do not.
Manalapan, Freehold, you see it, Robbinsville,
Robbinsville.
they're cutting all of their courtesy busing. And, you know, when we talk about things about what can we cut, I mean, we've seen the room packed years ago when the thought of after-school busing, not even during the day
Which
busing.
was cut for a short period of time, and what we did was we had holding areas or, you know, supervisory areas till 6 PM in the middle school, 7 PM for parents, because we didn't want the children to miss out on the activities. We didn't want to take away the activities. And I remember it being filled, and then we brought it back.
I have a question. Years ago, when it was in April, did you lose any of those, votes? Did you have to go to the
Yes,
mayor and council?
yes.
Yes.
Did they take away money?
I don't know, what happened back then, but I know, I do understand that we did have.
Yeah, so I've been here for 20 years, so
Yeah.
I would say for the first 5 of the 20 years, if I'm remembering correctly, and I'm glad we have a person in our audience that's shaking your head that I'm correct. So I would say for the last, when I got here, I was very excited that I worked in a district 20 years ago, 19 years ago, 18, 17, 16 years ago, that they voted, we always approved our budget. It was very, very exciting. And then I want to say approximately 15 years ago, we started to get it not approved.
Right.
Then it would go to town council, and I remember the expression was a penny was $1 million. I'm just doing it on the top of my head. Am I correct? Does that sound right? So then they would go ahead and they would evaluate. So if we were asking, you know, if we needed 4% above, some of them, I think one year, do not quote me, but I think one year they met what we needed. Another year they lowered it. They can't even increase it. You know
Right,
that.
right.
They can't even increase it. And then this happened, and I apologize, I don't know when we went to the November, the 2% cap came into effect, has to be over
That was about
10 years?
10 years ago.
So I want to say there was 5, I'm just gonna speak on my 20 years. 5 years we approved them, 5 years we didn't approve them, and for the last 10 years, we've been meeting cap.
Because I know, I've been involved in boards that lost, you know, and we went to the mayor and council, and we were friendly. But the mayor felt that the people spoke and that there should be cuts. So they did do some minor cuts, nothing that
That's what they did here too.
yeah, nothing that affected anything with the children. But I'm just saying, and also, if you put it in April, and I don't want to be negative right now, but then we foot the bill for $100,000 for that. And then if you lose, you're still going to maybe have cuts with the mayor and council, I don't know. You don't know from here to today to tomorrow.
Yeah, that's gonna be a cost of doing this. for
Right,
sure.
yes, that's, I know. So it's gonna be $100,000.
They don't tell you what to cut, though. It's my understanding they give you an amount, and then it comes back to the school district to make
Right.
decisions.
Yes.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So I guess our biggest concern is we are having such difficulty right now, even with any other increases that may come, and we have buildings that have to be fixed.
Right.
It is a major concern. This is not about extra programs and giving extra things, and we also don't want to take away from the
I
kids.
understand.
You know, and people move here because of what we give to our children.
Comments? Questions? Remember, clear on what next steps are there, we'll look with an eye toward coming to the June meeting with a resolution. Okay. All right. Next item is the annual contract renewals, or not the annual contract renewals, some of the annual contract renewals that we're going to review as a committee that'll appear on the agenda next week for approval. These are some of the larger ticket items that we kind of like to have a little transparency and discussion on, because we don't really see them otherwise until they appear in the bill list and we're paying them, and then we don't always know what they are. So we feel like we're kind of looping everybody in on some of these annual expenses and not just rubber stamping them go forward year after year, but that they get a little look-see and deliberation when necessary. So first one up is educational data services, which looks like it's one of those purchase consortium type deals, which I know I've heard everybody speak very highly of concerning like office
Savings.
supplies and things like that, and trying to really get savings. So contract for that year to year, or this is, I know I saw some of these today were like 5 years, so it's for one, next coming school year, 2023, 2024, $10,480. Now, they're saying for the past 5 years that the program has produced a total district dollar savings to date of $1,757,059. Quantify that or whatever anywhere, but I guess we'll trust that. Anyone have any questions? Any issues? And we'll see that. We'll see the renewal for the 10,480, the payments aren't really due yet. All right. Next up is the Monmouth Ocean Educational Services Commission. This one was, is this a transportation one?
Yeah, there's one, for transportation.
So the first one, now this is the one that was the 5-year agreement, which I'm gonna presume, but ask and for confirmation if that's typical, that this be a 5-year contract, because that seems, we don't see that too often. Almost everything we do seems to be for the following school year. I don't see coordinated transportation for 2023 to 2028.
Yeah, second page. yes.
2D.
So that was my question, I think, on that one, was just to make sure that that 5-year thing was standard and normal. And here, I think there's a fee schedule somewhere.
Fee schedule, one of those documents.
This one.
Yeah, it's in the, agreement for the provision of ed services.
But this
Should
is
be in this
mostly, transportation for,
And it depends really on, it's based on how many students use it. So,
there's no set number.
right,
Right.
you know, they kind of just go by how many on the bus are for us and how many are for another district and,
And this is one where it's compulsory based on
Monthly.
IEPs and such
Yeah.
that works. Yeah, there's no.
Yeah.
Can I ask, being new to these agreements, why are we going to Monmouth Ocean Educational Services when we're in Middlesex County?
well, if there are any students that leave the service.
Out of
Services that
district
they
place.
offer, you're saying?
Yeah, then.
that we don't offer
Yeah,
here.
we use the wall, actually.
Okay.
We really do.
No, I think, yeah, and you use.
Middlesex,
Tuition.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right, just wanted to know.
We have some schools that children can be transported down as far as Barnegat, like down.
Really?
Whatever the program is needed, if we don't offer it, then that's where we take them.
Yeah, we don't come down to like Monroe to the area.
Thank you.
Next one is also Monmouth Ocean Educational Services Commission. This one's for the non-public school aid in lieu. So is this the one where it's those $1,000 payments for back to families, or is it something different? Yeah, I don't have to know that.
Because.
I don't have that.
Either do I.
I don't know if it was bundled in with the coordinated transportation, but it looks separate.
Oh, yeah, it's in the back.
Oh, I have it, it's in the back.
So it's all just
So,
part of the
yeah,
same
It's
thing?
all part of the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, that shows you the fee that we were looking for, the fee schedule. The next one is Middlesex County.
Next one is the
Oh, Warren.
Warren County Special Services School District Resolution for Participation in Coordinated Transportation. Now, this one is just for 1 year.
This is really just in case, we don't have anyone going there, we don't need it right now, but just in case we do, it's just easier, it's, our transportation director likes to just make sure that that we have an agreement with.
That it's on
these,
file.
mhm.
Alright.
If a child that had
There's
that
no,
need.
there's no initial outlay unless we
No.
use the service.
Right,
Okay.
that's correct.
Have you used them before?
I think we have, but she does like to just make sure she has all of these consortiums, just in case we have a student that during the year that comes
Mhm.
along.
Has them.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have, yeah, there's 4.5%. There's an administration fee and then you get billed according to.
Right.
Number of students.
And then this one's the warrants just for next year, right?
Yes.
All right, next one is Frontline. So now this looks like services for employee evaluation, applicant tracking is part of this.
I had a question on, I had a star. I didn't, can you go into detail what this one is?
Yes, so we use there's three different things we use this for. One is for, evaluations, which I think.
The non-Marzano model.
The what, I'm sorry.
So earlier in the previous committee meeting, we talked about, how we were learning sciences, which is also, what's the name for it? Learning sciences, Marzano and effective educators. That is for our certificated staff. And then we have some members of the certificated staff that don't fall into, it wouldn't be an appropriate tool to properly evaluate them, so we use the strong.
Okay,
So, I mean, we're fortunate that strong does theirs under frontline, so it allows us to capture, but instead of having to have strong, and then Marzano, and then frontline, because it's part of frontline. So it's a way to it's an evaluation system for, I'm trying to think, nurses, I think it might be, media specialists,
okay.
small group.
So this, the renewals for 1 year, and it's $47,847.
It also includes, our professional learning management, so it's our PD.
Mhm.
We, register for that, to get that board approved and keep track of it. And we have the absence, management.
ASA.
Yeah, okay,
So that's all part.
which most districts have ASOP, okay.
Mhm, yes.
All right, next one is njschooljobs.com. This one is $1,800, again, for the 1 school year cycle, and this is for employment posting advertising.
Is that in a book or a website, or how is that
It's a web-
posted? Is
It's a
that
website.
Website?
Website, what's nice is it does, attach to our AppleTrack, which is the way we get way Frontline, feeds into when people apply. So it's online.
Thank you.
Of course.
Next one is BNL, which is the school pictures for 7 of the 8 schools. And maybe take a look at, yes, the 8th school.
Being the high school.
Having all,
Yeah, I think it might be appropriate. I remember when we changed to BNL, gosh, I'm trying to remember how many years ago it was. We changed to BNL, it was a conversation that, was supported by the administration at the time. And, I don't know the reasoning with the high school, but I do think it's a conversation that we can have with the high school, that perhaps all 8 of our schools would be with one vendor, and then maybe we could even, assume some discount, and then talk to them about a discount if we have all of our schools.
Who does the high school use?
I think it was Normandy.
Normandy?
So that's a conversation that we can definitely have.
And this one is for a 2-year agreement, and again, just wanted to make sure that was typical. It is
You know,
good.
they do a price freeze on all packages, so it saves the,
How often do we review, I'm sorry, Karen, I should have. How often do we review the vendors that we use for school pictures? I'm sure there's others out there. And I, as a parent, have always been concerned about the cost, that it costs to even just buy 2 pictures, and then you're mandated to buy
the package, otherwise you
the
spend
whole
money.
package, and, you know, and when you are talking 4 kids at once,
It's a lot of money.
it becomes a lot of money, and it was always something I just always bought the minimal package, just so I could have a school year picture, but I always found it cost prohibitive to me for some of these companies, and even this new company, when they came in, I didn't find their prices to be any better than the previous
Yeah,
company.
I
that we
think,
had.
I'll speak to, from when I was a principal, now I'll speak your expectation of me as your superintendent. So when I was principal, I started to get a little disenchanted with the current, and it wasn't really about price, it was about, quality, and it was about working with us with dates.
Mhm.
No, we have a lot of the Jewish holidays that started at the beginning of the year, we have all these issues, and they weren't as accommodating, and I said, why are we utilizing them? I'm not really sure. So then I brought in 3 or 4 different vendors as the principal, which I got approval from the superintendent to look into it. And, cost-wise, B&L was probably the most similar, maybe a little bit cheaper than we had at the time, but we wanted to try a different vendor, perhaps for a better service. I will let you know that, I'm very comfortable, having that conversation now with B&L, especially if we're gonna do with the 2-year agreement, and then we can look. So while we're looking at the high school, to say if they're willing to jump on board, that might be an opportunity to start looking at other vendors too.
And so there's no money mentioned in here, so
Right.
I presume it's
Yeah, there's no fee for us.
all
just
what they're
for the
collecting
parents.
from the parents.
Yeah, and that's what concerns me here, is that, you know, we're kind of doing this, and it doesn't.
It should behoove us.
They could basically charge the parents anything, and to
Right.
me, that's not doing the parents a service.
But even like some of it includes the school IDs, which, so
Mhm.
students that don't
So we're essentially paying for
Do the-
the parents.
do it's a little weird. I was saying if it's not mandatory, I don't think, or
They
even if
provide-
you have to take your picture, even if you're not gonna buy.
Oh,
a
well,
package, or-
yeah.
Yes, because we require it for school IDs. We don't charge you to go in the yearbook.
And for Genesis.
Correct, and for Genesis, so we do get the school IDs, and now, you know, the mandated suicide prevention hotline is also required to be on there. But I'm very comfortable calling in the rep and having that conversation about, you know, what's the cost to our parent population, opportunities, you know, we have some, you know, right now, life is not easy for many people in the world that we live in, and it would be my pleasure, so.
Even if they offered packages where you could, you know, that wasn't gonna be an arm and a leg
Mhm.
to get pictures, because I know it just, you know, some of the packages included, you know, 14 5x7s and 20 wallets.
And you don't need them.
I was always frustrated that you just couldn't get the digital on its own. for
Right, you had to buy a
reasonable
package,
cost.
yeah.
That
You
was-
had to buy a package, you couldn't get the
Yeah.
digital.
I can reach out to the rep. I'd be happy to reach out to the rep and have that
Yeah.
conversation.
So then is this not going to be signed, or until, Ms. Chamley finds out she can get a better price?
Well, there is no price on here, so if you're comfortable with signing, and then we meet with them, because what happens is, right now, believe it or not, it's May. They're going to schedule now all the buildings that they utilize, the 7 buildings, for all their dates for pictures.
Yeah, 'cause I noticed the last page says March 1st. of
Correct.
this, Contract.
So I mean, my recommendation would be that we do sign it and we do approve it, and then I can have the conversation with them, because they don't charge us a price, but indirectly they do, because we are our parents and our parents are us. So if they're charging our parents, we can maybe ask them if they'd be willing. You know, they do have almost our entire district, and then I can have the conversation with them about having them for the high school. Of course, bring Dr. Higgins into the conversation. But if we approve it, it gives us the opportunity to make sure that we have something for our children and for our IDs and for our yearbook.
And it's for 2 years. What if you talk to them and they don't give you a better price? Would you go out for somebody else and get a better price? Because this is 2 years.
Well, I will tell you that I looked at a couple of the other vendors, the very well-known ones, Life Touch, and there were a few others, and they were more expensive, actually.
Okay.
They were, but this is going back like 5 years ago.
My
Yeah.
touch has been around.
Yeah, forever. So what we can tell them is that, we want them to look at their packages and provide maybe a more economically sound package. Nobody wants even wallets, who carries around a
That we
picture
want
anymore?
to expand a lower tier
Lower tier,
offer.
because of the
Yeah.
cost, it's prohibitive, you know, if you have 3 kids, 4 kids, it's a lot.
Could, like you suggest, how we want the package, like what Kate said? You know, maybe you
Why not?
you want your, one 8x10, grandparents, 2 5x7s, and godparents, wallets.
I could bring in the representative,
I mean, yeah, bring it in and
I'll be
then
happy
maybe
to.
redesigned a cheaper, more
Why not?
reasonable package
Thank-
that, Kate, would you, be amenable to something like that?
Yeah,
I mean,
oh, absolutely.
and I just, I remember, I have a set of twins, I remember buying, 2 of everything when they went to school, so, maybe if we try to make the package,
Well, I'm gonna bring them in to have the conversation,
Yeah.
how would you like our high school? Now, if you like our high school, what are you gonna do for us?
right, there you go.
The district does make money on
And the schools do make money, that's correct. The district does
it.
make
Get
money.
20% back on the orders.
Oh, that's what that 20% was.
I'm just saying, they,
I just, to me, that's the same as the iPad scan.
So what happens is that money's, and I'm sure Laura will agree, that money needs to be spent back on the children. That is not money that can be spent, that does not in any way, please correct me, that does not offset any cost of anything that's curriculum related. And I remember being a middle school principal, when you get that check, that money then goes into your student activities account, which is audited as it should be, and that money needs to be spent directly on children, and if something is listed as a budgeted item, it may not be spent on that.
So what is the dollar amount that you could remember from past experience?
It wasn't astronomical, but it was a couple of $1,000s. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head.
That the district received back from them?
Each school.
Each school.
Oh, each school.
Oh.
And then, like I said, it has to go into the student
Okay.
activities account. At one time, many years ago, it was not allowed to go back to my school. It would go back to the district, but this is going back a long time ago until I remember specifically saying, it should come back to my school. I don't
well,
know.
some schools had to go to their parent organization.
What?
In the
Not where I was,
Oh.
but in the district.
Oh,
there
not in
was-
the middle school.
Because then that became a conversation that we had at district education councils, why
Oh.
is that school giving it to the
That's gotta be 10 years ago?
It was long,
Okay,
it was,
okay.
yeah, it was long ago.
Yeah.
But it's something that has to be,
Yeah. I'd like to see
maintained
it.
at each school level, that if the money back from pictures has to go into your student activities, just like you said, to be spent back on.
And it's labeled, it's spent on the children, however it's spent on the children, whether it offsets the cost of a trip, whether it offsets food for an activity, for a dance. 8th grade, we don't charge for the 8th grade dance. I'm speaking only from the middle school, whatever it is. And we were very conscientious because we always got a perfect order. It's very important to make sure we spend the money correctly. And it's very simple. It may not be a budgeted item. That's what you live by. If it's not, it may not be a budgeted item.
Yeah, I've never seen it show up as revenue.
But school
No.
pictures, in essence, school pictures in essence is a fundraiser for the school.
And that's exactly what it is. But I do think it's appropriate that I should have the conversation because, we want to try, even if it's just something as simplistic as, please put together a package that's economically sound for people that just can't afford it.
Yeah.
We give you 7 buildings. We may give you 8. What will you do for us? So I'll be happy to do that.
That's great. Right, even if it's a $15 or $20 digital version,
Right.
that you could just get the digital, so you could share that or have that. Because a lot of people don't even care about having to print anymore.
Especially a wallet.
Right.
I have all these wallet prints, no one carries a wallet. Right? I mean, think about it.
I carry a wallet, but I don't have
You have
any
any wallet
pictures in it.
pictures? No.
You know, my grandson's school, they give the wallet pictures, on a magnet. So, I have it on the refrigerator. So I think that's a good idea, like.
They offer
For
that too.
grandparents or for aunts and, godparents, put it on a magnet, and that, I think that's a better idea, and better use of that picture.
Yeah, I'll call them.
Digital
in.
frame.
I'll see what they want to do.
I don't want all those pictures, I want digital frame.
All right, next item is Computer Solutions, Inc., CSI software. That one looks like something to do with payroll.
Yeah, so that's payroll, that's a payroll, company and, our HR.
And back up, so it looks like it's,
Very reasonable.
piece of it is $7,788, and then
Cloud storage.
another piece of it is $6,000, $500 a month.
Very reasonable.
And they give us a 2% discount if we pay more July 31st, so it's even less.
What did, I couldn't hear
I said they
you.
give 2% discount if paid by July 31st,
Oh,
so it's
okay.
even less.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So those would be one of the checks.
We'll take this.
You have to cut it.
2% is 2%.
Where every dollar counts these days, every dollar.
On the emergency payment. Next,
Oh, I skipped around.
is Educational Services Commission New Jersey resolution for participation in coordinated transportation. So this looks like the.
That's our Middlesex
same
County
thing
version,
for
as
Middlesex.
Ms. DePayne was discussing. That's one that we work with.
So that's the same thing, no
Yes,
straight out numbers, but we.
they
have to have
utilize it at a higher level because it is Middlesex County.
Right.
Yep. I think I'm missing some.
Next one is J and B therapy. Which is some sort of professional services, I assume, for special services. There they have a fee schedule. And we have the contract on file so that they're authorized vendor and we agree to the fee schedule. If anyone has any questions or ever, just stop us. Just for one school year. Monmouth Ocean Educational Services Commission, so this is gonna be. This one didn't look like transportation, this was
This is for education.
child study team and or related services.
Yeah, nurses.
So that's also on a fee schedule, but something that we do use quite a bit because I saw them on the bill list this year. Some big numbers, yeah.
And this is a need if we, so for example, it could be home instruction. It could be, or it could just be services that we're not able to provide as per, IEP requirements we have to provide, so then we utilize an exterior company, for lack of a better term.
Okay, are there any teachers on the list to do home instruction?
Oh, no, we have plenty of our own
We have
teachers as
that, so
well,
if you go
absolutely.
through all those teachers, because of
Absolutely.
all the
Everything
7,000 students,
Right.
then you go to this company.
Everything stays staffed, our goal is always our own in-house, but when we don't have that opportunity, it could
Then
be
you go to the-
pathologist, it could be occupational
Right.
therapist, something different.
Okay,
Next to last, Rich, new word, not new word to me, it's not a new word. A penultimate.
Oh, wow.
Wow, I'm gonna write that down.
$5.
Andrew showed me up on that, yeah.
Oh, Andrew, penultimate, okay.
Fun Fit Therapy, so that looks like another,
Yeah.
agreement for special needs social services. It was not a fee schedule. Oh yeah, $375 per evaluation.
I did notice there's an agreement in here that they're insured, which, you know, there's.
Everybody has to be,
And all that. I did like to see that. It's the first thing I look for.
And the last one is home care therapies. And this will be another one for 1 year, and this is for clinical staffing. And they had a fee schedule. This was mostly for nursing services.
Yeah, it's standard nursing.
But we have a nurse on board.
All right. There is no dissent amongst the committee when we see these on the agenda next week. Will all be recommended to be put forward.
yeah.
Anyone have anything else?
Will there be more, or is this it? I mean, this is your usual ones that you
There'll
do
be
every year?
more. These are the ones
These are
that
the
they're
ones that are
prepared
due
to put
now?
on the agenda for this month, and then
Okay.
we'll probably see another
See another
packet.
pack,
We're
okay.
gonna see more coming through the curriculum committee for some of the software
Okay.
items.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of these annual
Right.
type things that'll just keep bubbling up. So we try to hit them in the different committees so that there's that transparency, that due diligence on not just rubber stamping things year
The
after year.
curriculum
after
ones will
year.
be on for next week, right? Or no?
As long as we can get them through your office, I know she had potentially asked to put them on in June. So it'd
Okay.
either be this month or June, the ones we talked about.
And Dr. Lehman did provide a lot of backup evidence and a lot of information.
Yeah, it was a
Thank
lot
you,
of
Dr. Lehman.
information. It'll be a good.
Usage, it was really
to watch.
usage data, it was really, informative, something we were able to go down, $18,000, we saw less usage, it was very good, thank you, Dr. Lehman. I think that's important to know because, I think for transparency purposes, we want to make sure nothing's just getting rubber stamped and just rolling. If we have less of usage or we don't have any usage, then we don't need it anymore.
Sounds good. Or if we see, right, that there's less usage, but now maybe there's another school or other pupils that.
I need
be
somewhere else.
exposed to it,
I need
right,
somewhere else.
and expand the usage or whatever.
13 minutes around.
I like that. All right, then, thank you very much. That concludes the finance committee meeting.
Perfect.